What is up, everybody? I'm Jeff Lund, and this is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, where we are intolerant of weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new and exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. We're going to talk today with my buddy Rob Buckingham about one of the most maybe underreported but fun things to do in Alaska. And it sounds kind of immoral, sounds kind of bad, but snagging salmon. In most areas, it's known as foul hooking a fish. But Alaska has terminal fisheries in which fish that are released and reared essentially in hatchery settings come back to areas in which they cannot spawn. There's small creeks, there's small rivers, and so the fish that come back there are open to the catching from charter fishermen, which enhances the local economy, commercial fishermen who they sell it, and that's their way of living, or locals who can catch it and they can put it in their freezers. And it doesn't even have to be right there in front of the river. It can be while they're out in the ocean. So it's enhancing the populations of salmon for all uses. And if you catch the fish in these particular areas below the mouth of these rivers, you can snag them, catch them, hook them wherever. So you're out there with a stout rod and you're out there with a large snag and hook. And it is crazy. It is like fish hunting. It is the opposite of dry fly fishing for trout. But I'm going to talk to my buddy Rob about the morality of it, the importance of filling freezers, and how snagging is actually pretty darn fun. So, Salmon Enhancement Program allows hatcheries to release fish. Fish come back to areas that don't have native runs, and so you can snag in the below the mouth of rivers. Rob, you're a snagger, and it sounds derogatory. It sounds like you're doing something illegal, as though we shouldn't talk about it because it's going to be indictment. Someone can listen to this and get turned in there. But how can someone feel good about snagging a fish, throwing an anchor-sized hook at a salmon and hooking it wherever you can and bringing it in? How can you justify that? Other than the fact that it's legal. It's totally legal. How do you justify the means?
Well, it needs no justification. Even by saying justify, yeah, I'm a snagger. I'm proud of it. I fish all the other methods as well. But there's certain times when snagging is it's harvesting. You're just getting meat.
I think that would be the thing that people get most. You have a rivalry between fly fishermen, like those who use bobbers and those who call bobbers indicators. I mean, people get in a huge tiff over the terminology there. So then you got spin casters versus fly fishermen, and then you got this whole thing of snagging, which, if you were to judge it by down south standards, it sounds totally illegal. But with the Salmon Enhancement Program, these fish are going to die anyway.
Yeah, they're
going to die without spawning anyway. So the sole purpose in these areas where they are, the eggs are incubated and then they are raised as fry, so they get a taste of the water, and so they know to go back there to spawn. But because they can't spawn in the river, they're just out there to, as the thing says, it's salmon enhancements, to get more fish out there for the commercial fishermen to catch, for the charter fishermen to catch, and then for the locals to harvest. So how do you, it's a different feeling. Explain the difference between catching one on a spinner and then snagging. Why is snagging so much more appealing?
Snagging appeals to me in that it's skill. It's absolute skill. There's no luck involved. You see the fish, you aim at the fish, you get the fish. If any other type of fishing, there's an element of luck. But snagging, there's really no element of luck. So that appeals to me. It's a combination of hunting and fishing.
So
you act like you disagree.
No, I'm laughing because I know exactly if you see the fish. But when you and I have both been in areas where you're seeing 15, 20 fish swim right by, and you have this huge snagging lure, you cast out and you don't get one. So you have these highs where if you're just spin casting, you cast out and you reel in, cast out, reel in. It's just repetitive. Whereas if you're snagging, you're waiting, and then it's your one cast. And
you get one.
And you miss 15 fish. How do you feel though? How does it make you feel? If you it appeals to you because it's skill based. And how do you feel when you miss? There's a school of 15 fish and you miss them all.
Yeah, you feel unskillful and it drives you crazy. And there's a lot of other skill involved, like so much can go wrong. You literally get 2 or 3 casts generally. And if you foul your first one up or get your line around your rod tip, then that's it. That's your chance. And so you're going to wait 30 more minutes till a fish swim back by. So you learn to not foul up, to not get your hook twisted so you can get 3 casts in.
What's worse, having fish jumping all around or boiling around you finning and you're in the river, freshwater fishing with a spinner, not catching anything, or trout are rising and not taking your dry fly, or missing a snag opportunity?
I don't know if there's worse or better. They're all terrible. If the fish aren't biting, it's a hopeless feeling. If you miss snagging, it's not a hopeless feeling, it's aggravating, but you can get them the next time. You exert your will on the situation. If the fish aren't biting, you can change, but it can be a hopeless feeling.
I would agree. It's more frustrating the exerting your will on the situation. I think that's a good way of putting it. The highs are so much higher, I think, when snagging, because it's more violent. It's not gently presenting a fly or trying to retrieve your hook. But what about losing a fish? You hook into a fish. There have been spots. There are spots where you can snag terminal king salmon, and then also coho salmon. So which one is worse? Losing a nice chrome, bright coho on a spinner, or losing one after it's been snagged up? Or do you have a memory of a particular fish that you lost that made you feel sick?
Well, they're all bad. One thing that, if you're talking about justifying snagging, one quick thing is, if you snag a fish and lose it, now this is not scientific, this is me, but you've basically ripped a hole in its side or a gash. The fish is totally going to survive that and go spawn. But if you get a treble hook, or if one bites and you lose it, that fish you're probably in its gills. You probably messed it up. So people who look down at snaggers like it's unethical, I don't like that, because you're just wounding the fish, sure, but it's a flesh wound as opposed to messing with their mouth gills.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Again, if you're spin casting and the thing is up there to spawn, and you do, like you said, mess with the gills, and I really hate when I'm spin casting in the river and you get like a dolly or something like this, or a trout that's a little overzealous. So you're going for salmon, but you get that 3 barbed bite, and there's no way, and you're trying everything you can, but it's just the dolly or trout's going to die. And I really hate when it's just a really nice rainbow. And you didn't want the rainbow or the cutthroat, but now there's nothing you can do. But if it's big enough to kill it and keep it, but you feel bad about that. And then also, with the schools do their circles, and that's the thing. If you're a skilled snagger or you're new, that's one of the things you look for is they come in the runs and they do these circles. So finding a place where you can intercept them, they don't just hold. They go in these circles, and if you do happen to have it tear out of the side of one, that almost becomes a marker that then you can look for the gash on the second time around. And again, they're not going to go spawn, so that you're not preventing the dozens of other fry from eventually hatching, because again, the thing's not going to spawn. But does become kind of a marker. What are some other skills that are involved with this? If someone was up here snagging for the first time, like, hey, you can snag in this area. You're up in Whale Pass, and it's your first day. What are some things that you would, or some tips you would recommend for someone's first time?
I mean, I am not a good snagger. I'm getting better. I don't know. It's really hard. It really is. A new snagger is going to be incredibly frustrating.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that you've picked up.
Oh, yeah.
That I think one of the things, and what I'm trying to explain to some of my buddies who have come up is, first thing is looking for that messed up water, that uneven water, the mixed up, where it's different than a normal flow, where it's different than a normal current or normal waves, and you're seeing the water on top is kind of going counter to that. Or there's a V. Some people can't see the V, but the V is that lead fish or those lead couple fish that are up a little bit higher. When you do see that V, and I know you see the V,
yeah.
Do you cast very far beyond it? Do you try to cast right in it? Where do you cast to try to make something happen?
No, if I see the V, I'm actually trying to physically see the fish. I can see what's going on in the water, but I'm trying to hold my cast till I physically see the fish. And then you're leading it and overshooting it, and the idea is that you set it up, reel, set it up so that your line is going through the front of the V, and that if you can make that intersect, then you got them.
Some people aim, I think, for the V, and that just kind of spooks the fish. And so then they scatter some for wherever. So I like the beyond thing. Some people try to right in the middle of the V.
Yeah.
If you got a school of 15 or so, then yeah, you might hit it, you might get one. But I think the beyond, that way it gives the wait a little bit of time to sink, and then you're yanking up into them.
That's right. They're swimming into your line. They don't see it as well.
Yeah.
I call it splashing the pot, like a poker term. But if you throw it right into the group of fish, you've wasted your chance, and then you're waiting 30 minutes.
The seeing of the fish, some people have a difficult time seeing the fish. I think I was in California and we're looking for rainbow trout, and I couldn't see, but my buddy could. And it was looking not at looking in the water for the fish, it's try to look at the bottom of the water itself. And so if you're looking at rocks, you'll see the fish between that and the rocks. So if you're out in deeper water, it's 2 or 3 feet deep, you can't see the bottom, but you're looking toward the bottom, then you'll see the movement in between where you're looking and the actual fish. If you try to look for the fish itself, sometimes you're just looking at the surface and you're not seeing below into it. So I try to look through the water at the bottom. That way, between where I'm looking is where I can kind of see the fish, the torpedo, the change in color, or the movement. How would you describe what you do to find the actual fish?
Exactly right. The same exact thing. I focus on something, find a stick, find a jellyfish is swimming by, just watch it for a while. Pretty soon your eyes get more and more accustomed to looking into the water. And of course, you're trying to remember your polarized glasses, keep them clean. Mm-hmm. But definitely finding something I can focus on underneath the water. And like you said, there'll be a marker fish that a seal's torn a chunk out of, or just got something wrong with him. That'll help you see. Usually you see them and it's almost too late. I mean, it's really... But I just need to... I don't hardly miss if I can physically see the fish. Mm-hmm. If I'm throwing at what's on top of the water, it's frustrating. And some people blind cast all day long and they get fish that way. But that's not skill-based anymore. That's back to luck.
Just tons, sending it.
Yeah.
You've done fishing. There's different areas. In some of the areas, there's not really much of a creek that at low tide becomes much of anything. So you fish, well, you and I both have fished from boats in the salt water, and then also below the mouth of the river. So it's fresh water, but it's in the tidal flats there. Do you prefer mouth of the river or the creek at low tide from the flats, or do you prefer out in a boat, or is there a difference, a particular time for either?
I think my absolute favorite was Sarkar. Have you done Sarkar?
I haven't.
So Sarkar, you're up on the rocks, you're 10 feet above the surface of the water, and it's tidal, but I love being up high, having a vantage point, and so the problem is you're waiting for the fish to swim by, it can be every 30 minutes if it's not good. But when they come, you see them coming, and you get your shot, and it's pretty easy to land.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
I loved Sarkar. So I'm trying to find a spot where I can stand high. A boat is very difficult because you're low, your angle on your jerk isn't good, and there's too much depth to contend with.
At Whale Pass, people go out, chest deep as far as they can, and they're looking for, because you can get some big schools out there, 30, 40 fish or so. And so if you splash it just beyond them, if you're wading in at shore, they might come in low, and if they do come in low, sometimes they get past 15, 20 people, and they're looping around, coming up with the tide as far as the tide goes, and they loop out, and people can't really see it. I'm pretty good at seeing the wake, and so I can get them when they're coming up in there and they go past people, but some people try to get waist deep or chest deep, and that's just so hard because the angle of your snag is jacked up.
Yeah, it really messes that up.
And then there's the mud and the incoming tides. If you get stuck or there's a little undulation that you didn't notice getting out there that you then have to walk back through, getting back to shore, and you flood your waders, that's no good. But I definitely like you said, being up on top of the fish. But the boat is weird, man. I'm not a big fan of the boat.
Boat's tough. It's really fun to see it make contact. I don't know if you've seen that, but to see it when you actually hit the fish. Yeah. What was the place you brought me to? Or
that was Whale Pass.
That's Whale Pass.
Yeah.
So that one's fun, but that one is easy. You know what I mean? Sometimes they are literally can't miss.
And that's the nice thing too about a place like Whale Pass. It's a really good. The tide goes out so far that you've got 300 yards of creek that's below the snag line, and so as the tide's coming up, you have so much time. The water goes from a foot deep to 2 or 3, 4 feet deep, so you can see the fish, you can see them boil. You have multiple schools that are coming up at the same time, so they're all mixed together, and you can get a limit in half an hour. I mean, you don't have to. It's just crazy, and it's so easy, and that's so much fun. But again, so many people there, and a lot of the lodges in the Whale Pass area. There's so many fish at that terminal fishery. It's so good for the local economy, and then good for fishermen. They get to take a whole bunch of boxes home, or if they're local, they can keep it there. But that's if I'm snagging, I kind of want it to be easy. If I want it to be difficult, there are other ways that you can go out and you can do it. And I kind of like it when it's that. I'm going to go there, I'm going to get my fish, have some laughs before I get too stressed out.
Sure.
So. What's the biggest fish you caught? You've done kings and you've done cohos.
Yeah, probably a mid-20s pound king. That's probably... I really haven't snagged kings very much. It's been cohos and... Sockeye, good grief.
Yeah. And again, these are only in areas that it's specified to do this. You can't just go into any river system.
That's right. They're hard to find.
Yeah, if this is your first time up to Alaska, don't think that I listen to a podcast and I can go below any mouth of river and I can snag any fish. That is definitely not true. There are certain areas that have terminal runs where you can go and you can do this. So you might want to check on that. But What's your setup? What do you go with? Rod, reel? Do you go braided? Do you go 25-pound test? Do you have 15-pound test? What's your setup look like?
One piece rod, just the gnarliest, cheapest combo. A combination of cheap and gnarly. Big giant reels. Braided 80-pound, braided 100-pound, and just tie that thing on there. If you can't tie a knot, tie a lot and get it on there. And there's nothing about it that's pretty, nothing fancy. And you'll blow up several reels. Kings are just tough on equipment.
Yeah, I've done braided before. Whale Pass, the water's a little bit thinner, so the chance of getting snagged up on rocks is a little bit more prevalent or common. And with that braided line, you can't break it off. And so if you do have to cut it off, then you got this massive, line that's just hanging out there. So I like 25-pound test, and that's for cohos, so you're not going to worry about the line breaking. But yeah, one-piece rod. I've had a two-piece, which has been fine, but as long as it's got to be one of those ocean, almost halibut type rods, really stout, really big, like you said, gnarly, big old fighting butt on it, and then a reel that's the rating at the lowest end would be 20-pound test, can go up to 30 or 35-pound test. I like 25-pound test.
Yeah, 25 to 30.
It's strong. You're going to risk, if you are going for kings, there is the risk because you're so difficult with it. And if you're in saltwater and you're going over barnacles or the constant yanking with a really heavy lure, you're going to put little micro tears in the line. So the chance of it tearing, but I definitely like the possibility of getting it either unhooked or it breaking off at the knot rather than the braided, you're not getting it off. But some areas where it's deep, you're not going to worry too much about.
Yeah, well, you can break that 80 or pull your hook straight. I mean, you just have to yard it.
Yeah. How do you yard yours? You do
go around,
wrap me on there a couple times.
A couple times and turn around and then try to fight through the pain.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do it on your bare skin. But...
Oh yeah, I've seen people have done that. You just wrap it around their arm, but I have to specify. Some people wrap it around their arm, and yet still the angle is weird, and so they put pressure on the tip of their rod rather than dipping the tip of the rod, so it's straight there, and you can put a lot of pressure
slack on between your rod and your arm.
Yeah, straight down
around your waist and walk, lunge. There's ways to do it.
Yeah, you just make sure you turn your head away.
Well, yeah, with braided, there's none of that. It's not,
because it doesn't expand at all.
Yeah,
but
which is why it's so good when you pull and rip into a fish. It just buries it. There's no give. There's no bouncing around.
Harvesting, man.
No, it's just getting meat.
Yeah,
and it's fun, and probably people that turn their nose up at it are too embarrassed to try it. Yeah. And if they did, they'd probably. I can't tell you the number of people that have tried it and then they primarily fish that way.
Yeah, and I feel bad because when you say fun, it doesn't mesh well with, I don't know if it's the political correctness, but it's the same when people say it's fun to hunt. Oh, you like killing animals? You like shooting animals? You like watching them die? No, it's not like I go up to it and say, ha ha ha, I'm higher on the food chain. There's a rush that's involved. There's a good feeling that comes with providing for yourself and going out and getting meat. And so with snagging, it's fun. You're out there and it's by any means necessary.
Yeah, it's fun. It's cheaper than other types of fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting good fresh salmon. So.
Generally, yeah, you can get dark ones snagging because they're not. Sometimes they're not feeding you. Sometimes the only way to catch them, other than that.
Yeah. When they start the metabolism starts to change and their composition goes to just eating off itself in order to get to. But I don't feel bad at all because they're not going to spawn anyway. They're just going to die. So either a seal gets to eat it, which they still get to eat plenty, or I get to eat it. So. If
you're really going to feel bad, maybe you shouldn't be fishing because. I mean, Some people turn their nose up at snagging, and they're using a dry fly and catching a beautiful rainbow. They're holding it out of the water, looking at it, and releasing it, and patting themselves on the back, and that fish dies.
Yeah.
And then they have no business fishing of any kind, and then.
I would say that as a steelhead fisherman, I should feel worse catching steelhead than I should catching.
Yeah,
There's no chance that I'm going to keep a steelhead.
Right.
So best case scenario, like you said, and we've been steelhead fishing together, is that I catch a steelhead, and I'm really excited for it, love it, want to take a picture of it, beautiful fish, and let it go. Those things are tough.
They are tough.
But yeah, like with the accidental, the bycatch of a rainbow, or even the dry fly with a small little rainbow, or even if you're going dry fly fishing for rainbows or cutthroats and you get a little smole, the thing that's pretty small, it hasn't hatched, hasn't been alive very long, and it's just looking for food, and that even if it's a small barbless hook, man, it just rips into the head of the thing. You're trying to release that.
Yeah.
It's not what you were going for. It's accidental. But yeah, I think morally, which I really don't care about, I'm not too worried. Not that I'm an immoral person, but
that's it.
I catch and release steelhead. I love it. I enjoy and I appreciate the species steelhead. And I also am fine with snagging to get meat for the freezer. But for the people who are against that, you're not going to be able to convince them anyways of anything. But that's something that's out there.
I don't come across those people.
You know they exist.
I know they're there.
But yeah. That's one of it's kind of the disconnect that people have between the way things are and what they perceive, and the moral high ground some people try to have about whether I'm more advanced or I'm more moral because I'm a vegetarian or I'm a vegan. And you start, if you want to go down to the basics, if people want to be vegetarian, vegan, fine, it's great. Live your life. You want to do it for the right reasons, that's cool. But there are animals who are killed when those crops are harvested. There are animals that are, if you have a deer eating, the crops, what's the farmer going to do to that deer?
I thought we were talking about snagging. Now you're.
We are. We're talking about people who try to get moral about it, right? Like you are immoral because you're snag. I'm better than you because I don't snag. It's immoral to snag. But everybody has blood on their hands to some degree. No one is perfect. No one has the moral high ground. So if you worry so much about it, all you're doing is putting yourself in a position to get proven wrong, because things are a lot more complex than, I don't eat fish, I don't eat animals, so I'm morally better than you. I'm more...
Well, good if they don't want to snag, because there's already too many people doing it. Agreed, man. So I'm not going to try to talk anybody out of it.
Or into it.
And I don't love slamming down 5 snagging hooks on the counter. It doesn't... like I said, I don't love being a snagger, but it's fun to do. And it does get meat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a... When was the first time you went snag? Because your dad would go up with Don Bussey.
Yeah, probably...
Past, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Probably when I was 16 or 17, so 20 years ago, Sarkar was open for sockeyes. Somebody figured that out, probably my dad. These things need figured out. They're not advertised. And not a lot of people were doing it. You'd have to drive an hour, and then maybe there's somebody in the hole, and if somebody's there, you kind of... It really wasn't room for very many people.
Yeah.
But if you got it and hit it right, you could get your 6 fish and have an awesome time doing it.
Yeah. What's the fastest you've gotten your fish?
Probably I've gotten... Was it 6 back then? 6 seems
it's still
right.
6. Well, it depends on the area. It's still 6 at Whale Pass for cohos.
Yeah. Just immediate. Like I've done it in an hour.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just undescribably good.
Yeah. Well, the time you and me went up there, Mandy was up there, and Don was up. Was Don up there too?
Yeah. Don, yeah.
And that was just a matter of who's going to get it first. There's no question that we're all going to get our 6.
That's right.
It's just a matter of how fast.
That was really good.
Yeah.
And those were nice fish.
Yeah. It's funny. Sometimes you get there and they kind of circled up as high as the freshwater can go and circle out a couple times. Some of them get up into the freshwater and get trapped by the tide. So they start to turn a little bit more. So you have some that are kind of bruised by the rocks, and just by time they're a little bit darker. But yeah, it's a good time snagging.
Yeah.
Nice stout rod. Get a nice reel. I go with the Penn because I think you can get the Penn rod and reel combo for like $100. It's the Penn Pursuit 2, I think, is the reel. Get some 25-pound test on it. I don't get the biggest snag and hook because as soon as you lose tension, sometimes it just falls right out. So you have to keep your tension. I like a more of a medium-sized snag and hook, not something that's too aggressive or too heavy.
Wow, that's a great point.
Do you go with the huge ones?
I go with the 10, the heaviest that I can buy.
Yeah.
But I have never heard that argument. It's logical.
Yeah.
But with my braided line, I'm burying it. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. If you get a super big hook and it's super deep, and you have good tension, man, your chances of tearing it out are great too. So if you get a good one that's in there but not so big it's just going to tear through the skin, then you can. But again, that's all personal preference. I've gone to whale pass with 10-pound test, a Shakespeare ugly stick, and number 5 Blue Fox spinners, which is fun because it's neon or a really bright color, so you see exactly where your spinner is, and you can suspend it in the air. So as you're retrieving it, if you need to slow down or speed up, you can really regulate that. And then it's just a tiny little hole. It's not going to tear out at all. So you get in past the barb and the skin, you've got that fish. It's just a matter of if the line is going to hold. You got 10-pound test, and you got a coho in the back, and the thing takes off, man. That's a trip. You don't feel like this line isn't going to snap or this rod's going to snap, man. You got a regular rod that is rigged up for fish that are hooked in the mouth, and you can turn the head. But, man, when you got tiny little hole and you got one barb in there, man, that is a trip. But
yeah, that's one part of snagging that we haven't discussed. I don't think a foul hooked fish is very much more of a fight than it's a whole different ball game. They feel, I mean, if you foul hook a 25-pound king, you're in for it.
Yeah.
Especially if there's seals around.
Yeah.
So you've got to yard it in. It's exciting.
If you're at the river and there's humpies and there's cohos in there, and you hook in and you just feel it take off, oh man, it's a coho, and then it ends up being a foul hooked pink. That's a sad moment. That is a sad moment. This is nice silver, man. Look at it take it off, screaming line off the reel, and it's a pink.
It's doing the tail slap circle.
Yeah, like it's doing circles. No, the humpy circles. But, yeah. So yeah, there is the snagging. Anything to add about the life of some people did not know things like this exist, and that's some of the most favorite afternoons some of my buddies have had that have come up here, going up there and snagging because they feel like they're doing something illegal. They feel like a kid who, is doing stuff without permission, but totally legal in the spots where you can do it. Any other closing thoughts about snagging?
No. It's been hard to take you seriously throughout this conversation because you've got a hideous mohawk.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
It's hard to, yeah.
I learned early. If you even think back to when we were in high school, like none of the teachers had mohawks, but they were kind of part of. They weren't just teachers, like you had the teachers were people who did stuff, and the connection you had with them as people, even outside guys that you could fish with or hunt with, and it was kind of, you had a rapport with the kids, which kind of adopted that as it's important for kids to see me as a teacher. So if softball players said, or they were going to the state tournament and they had no reason, they were 3-9 going into regions. They were down 10 runs in the 5th inning. They score 19. So they go from down 10 to up 9. And they win a game to qualify to state. Win their first 3 games. And then they're playing the 2-time defending state champion. So, hey, I'll talk to one of the kids. Hey, if you win this game, then you can shave a mohawk. And naturally, they win. Then lost the state championship. But, so... yeah, glad, man of my word, made the promise, got the mohawk. It's ugly, hideous.
It is. It's bad.
Just gross.
It's bad.
Even if you're like 15 and you're a Nirvana fan or a skater, it didn't look good, and it doesn't look good on a 37-year-old dude. But kids got to laugh, and if a kid,
I bet they laughed. Yeah.
If there may have been a kid at school who didn't have a chance to laugh or smile today, and so it was at my expense. So if they're feeling insecure or bad, they can think, you know what, at least I don't look as ugly as Mr. Lund does right now.
Right.
So it's about the self-esteem there. Well, thanks, Rob. We'll call that the Snagging episode. All you need to know about the immoral but fun snagging Southeast Alaska. As always, thanks for listening. Check out themediocrealaskan.com. Check out content, and we'll talk to you next time.